Fox host Brian Kilmeade is feeling real sorry after calling for the wholesale murder of homeless people.
You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this: we're not voting for the right people. And
Oh, okay. And wow, there it is. Flippantly advocating for the murder of homeless people. Yeah. And yet, apparently, we're supposed to believe that it is the left that is violent and the right is pro-life. That doesn't really sound very pro-life, does it? Now, he did get a lot of backlash for this online, of course. Representative Don Beyer of Virginia tweeted this. He said, America's homeless population includes over 1 million children and tens of thousands of veterans, many of whom served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nobody deserves to be murdered by the government for mental illness or poverty. These Fox hosts are calling for mass murder. It's sick. Shannon Watts writes, Brian is advocating for extrajudicial killings on Fox, yet Matthew Dowd was fired by MSNBC for pointing out Charlie Kirk's dangerous rhetoric. This moral asymmetry in the media and online is destroying democracy. Yeah, what Matthew Dowd said, by the way, was just pointing out, like, Charlie Kirk has said a lot of inflammatory things. And, well, that can cause people to be violent towards those groups that you're demonizing. That's really all he said, and he got fired for that. And yet Brian Kilmeade, not really gonna, face any consequences for this one. But anyway, Sarah Longwell, who's the founder and publisher of The Bulwark, a conservative outlet, wrote, my God, what is happening? Well, it is a Fox News host going full mask off. That's what that is. They're just exposing their real thoughts, okay? Understand, they believe that homeless people are not really human, okay? They're all violent and criminal and mentally ill, etc. But they're not. That is not true. And contrary to what some people believe, okay, they actually are not refusing help for no reason. Because I see this every time I talk about homelessness, right? I get these people in my comment sessions that are like, they just want to be homeless. They just want to stay on the streets and do drugs. That's what they want to do. They don't want the help. No, hold on here. There is a case of where people will, be offered space at a shelter and they'll be like, no, dog, I'm all right. Why would they refuse that? Why would they rather stay in their tents? Well, one of the biggest reasons happens to be privacy. Yes, privacy. There's a lot of shelters. In fact, I think all these shelters are pretty communal, okay? And so there is absolutely no privacy. You are sharing space with others. You're sharing rooms with others. And look, in a lot of cases, you have people that, there are scuffles between these people. There's sometimes violence. There's theft. There's other issues, okay? There's stringent rules in these shelters. For example, pets, not allowed. A lot of people who are homeless have animals. And, of course, anybody who, loves their animal is not going to give them up, And so they would rather not be in the shelter. Not only that, but you have a lot of shelters being run by religious nonprofits that have additional rules in place. I know I've talked about some of them that would require you to go to basically religious services. So you're required to do religious services in order to stay in some of these shelters. Now, some people might ask, well, why does that matter? That'd still be better than staying out in the street, right? But you got to understand that there are many homeless people that are actually LGBTQ, members of the LGBTQ community that were kicked out from their homes. These are teenagers, these are younger people, kicked out of their homes because of their identity, because of who they are. And these organizations do not want these people unless they renounce who they are, unless they renounce their identities. And so that matters. And again, to continue here, the idea that homeless people, as we're talking about, things that are true and things that are not true, well, you have this idea that homeless people, they're all mentally ill drug addicts. That's not true either. Only about a third of all homeless people, according to the group United to End Homelessness, are either mentally ill or have substance abuse problems. In fact, here's the reality. According to a demographic survey that was done as part of the UCI cost study, the top reasons why people become homeless actually have to do with socioeconomic reasons. The top two causes were finding a job that paid a sustainable wage and finding housing that's affordable. Simply, they cannot afford a place to live. They cannot afford a home. And so they end up becoming homeless. Yeah, that's right. Now, over 75% cited these issues as to what caused them to fall into homelessness. That's important. Again, not only that, but a common trope here is, they just refuse to work. Why don't they just get a job? Many of these people already do work. In fact, I'll give you the numbers here. They work, but they cannot afford shelter. For example, according to a 2021 study by the University of Chicago, an estimated 53% of people living in homeless shelters and 40% of unsheltered people had jobs. They had jobs. They either worked full or part-time, but don't make enough money to afford housing. Here you are. This shows how much they make, and it's not very much. It's not very much, and you can see the years, okay? And the cost of housing has only gone up, while wages have not. And so here you have these people that are making very, very little, even though they work, sometimes, again, full or part-time, and they just cannot afford housing. That's the reality. And yet these are the same people that Brian Kilmeade callously said, let's just kill them. Let's kill them. I mean, look, if you're a person who has any semblance of, I don't know, humanity, you would be furious. And a lot of people are. Okay? But I also know that so many people, unfortunately, agree with him. Because they don't believe that homeless people are people. They don't believe it. They believe the lies. They believe the dehumanization of homeless people that the far right, as well as our capitalist culture, has spread about them. And look, this is not to leave the Democrats out of this, because there are plenty of Democrats, too, that have been very callous towards homeless people and have spread these very same sorts of ideas about the homeless, okay? But what's important here is we can fix this issue. We can fix this issue. We can fix homelessness. And it's not that hard. You just have to give people homes, right? But the problem is we as a society have chosen not to. That's it. And why? Why would we as a society do that? Well, it's because of the people running this society, okay? It is because of capitalism, okay? The existence of homeless people is allowed by our system to perpetuate because the capitalist class, the owner-donors, want them to exist. Why would they want that? Because they want workers to be too afraid to stand up for themselves. Too afraid of the fear of losing their jobs and then losing their homes. And then becoming demonized like all of the other homeless people. That's the reality. That is the uncomfortable truth as to why we, even though we have the resources and the ability to do so, have not solved homelessness. There are people that want this. Again, there are more than enough homes to house everyone. And where there are not, we can build more. We have the ability. But instead of doing that, Kilmeade and other people like him are like, nah, just kill them all. Nah. Now, of course, after the backlash he received, he apologized. On Sunday, he said, quote, "We were discussing the murder of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalized or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. During that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections." Involuntary lethal injections. Murder. You said murder. That's what you did. That's what you advocated for, buddy. But he said, "I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I am obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as a perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion." Let me just note that, Charlie Kirk, for example, he talked about empathy being basically weakness, okay? And there are so many people on the right that feel the same way. They think, oh, no, empathy, it's this new age term, and it's weakness. We don't like that. No, we don't like the idea of treating people with compassion and, humanity. Well, I mean, that's how you feel. Again, non-apology. All right, non-apology. That's what that is. Obviously, you weren't aware of that, or else you wouldn't have said the thing that you said. Okay, and this isn't just like, oh, I didn't think before I spoke. No, you did. You just said that what you were thinking. That's what you said, because that's what you were. That's how you really feel. Okay, look, the majority of homeless people, as I mentioned before, they're not violent criminals. They're people down in their luck. Okay, but if this is what your mind automatically goes to as a solution, then you might want to do some real self-reflection, especially if you consider yourself to be a good Christian. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.